Hey, Professor Fields here. We're at AJ 115, Community and Human Relations. We're in Chapter 7, and specifically, we're on Learning Objective 3, which is highlight key law enforcement issues related to Latino Hispanic Americans. One of the things you got to understand when dealing with Hispanic Americans, again, as we've said through this whole module and this whole course, these are all generalizations that don't pertain to absolutely everybody. These are generalizations and some key issues you should think about. But one of the things to think about is machismo, and that's a sense of masculine power. Um, and again, my audience at El Camino, largely Hispanic, over 67% of my classes are Hispanic origin. So you know a lot of this stuff. But one of the things I found over the years is to respect that machismo when dealing with interacting with people. So in other words, don't belittle or arrest somebody in front of their spouse, girlfriend, children, stuff like that. Do your best to take the interaction elsewhere. Example, I used to work the DUI shift. If I had a male that was Hispanic origin, and you can get that sense of the machismo as you're talking with them, bring them around to towards the rear of the patrol car or something, out of the way so the kids and the wife don't see you putting handcuffs on daddy. That just leaves a bad image in their mind. And it sets him up as you go back to verbal judo. It's not very respectful. Some of the things that play into the interactions with law enforcement is wherever country they originally were from. Many South American countries, El Salvador, Mexico, places like that, the police aren't your friends. They're not their partners in the neighborhoods. They're usually run by the military, and a lot of them did things like death squads. The drug dealers in Mexico often have the police round up their enemies and kill them, and so there's a lot of fear of police in South American regions. So somebody coming to the United States new will fear the police or may fear the police. Again, El Salvador, the death squads that line people up and kill them. So if you show up in uniform and it's somebody that's new to this country, they may not understand that you're not there to kill them. Hate crimes against Hispanics. As you know, there's a very strong anti-immigration sentiment in this country. This is being recorded in 2015, and right now there's a presidential election going on, and the leading candidate on the Republican side is Donald Trump, whose big issue is illegal immigration. And as you saw in the very first video in this section, we talked about the debate on illegal immigration and path to citizenship. There's also the widespread belief among not only Hispanics but a lot of people of color that they are stopped based on their race or ethnicity. And unfortunately, that's been the case in a lot of, not a lot of, there's been a case in some agencies. The California Highway Patrol was sued back in the late 90s. It was a lawsuit that I got to manage when I worked in our headquarters office, and it had to do with profiling of Hispanic Americans. And basically, what it was we were looking at the drug trade, and they were doing profiles of the people that were running drugs. And in that time, that era, it was mainly people of Hispanic origin, and specifically those from Mexico. So that was one of the factors that was used in deciding whether to stop a vehicle. It was decided that that probably wasn't a good policy to have, and so we redid the training to look at the other factors. And again, they didn't use just the fact that the persons were Hispanic. They used the fact that there was some kind of vehicle code violation. Maybe it was a moving violation like speeding, or maybe it was a mechanical violation like expired registration. Uh, but they also looked at the Latinos coming up from Mexico that were running drugs at the time. So what do you do? Well, one of them is community outreach model, and that is reaching out. Again, this is like all the other sections we've talked about. Having bilingual officers, public safety dispatchers, community services officers that are bilingual, that can understand not only the language but understand how the language is used. As you know, the Spanish in Mexico is different than the Spanish in some of the Spanish in South America, and so the nuances are very important. The CHP, my former agency, had a El Protector program. It's been in effect since the late 80s, and its function is to reach out to the Hispanic community and reduce the number of traffic collisions and fatalities specifically. I was just reading the stats the other day, and a huge number, like 40% of the children under age of 4 that die in traffic collisions or are of Hispanic background in California, mainly because the child safety seats aren't being used correctly. Also, look at your recruiting efforts. The CHP does a pretty good job of outreach of Hispanic officers. As you know, if you've been to my classes on campus, we have not only CHP but Los Angeles Sheriff, LAPD often bring Hispanic officers to show the role models, to show that that this is a job that you can do.